Alright, all you night driving, time traveling racers out there, welcome back to Under the Radar. And this week's stunts of the week, and we decided to go with a triple-decker sandwich on this one, folks, comes from not only Pt.228 with her stunt reproduction over the canal, but we also decided to go with Crazy Force's stunt of Back to the Future stunt montage, and finally, last but not least, Vern Gleb with his stunt, Unidentified. Now, the reason why we went with 3 stunts for this week for the first time in well over 2 years is because the first stunt, the fact that he was able to do this in one take with a rickety ramp and was able to leap over that said canal in one stunt jump is impressive in our books. And aside from that, because not only it's Back to the Future Day for the second stunt, but also because he was able to thread the needle like nobody else could, and was able to do it by taking off the flight mode on certain parts of his stunt, and still was able to make it look good, which is impressive no matter which way you look at it. And the last stunt, well, the reason why we picked that one, folks, is because we wanted to make sure we were not going insane, where we saw a guy flying alongside of a Bombushka plane, dropping bombs over city streets, which is insane no matter how many times you see it. And speaking of insanity, folks, I think it's time for us to get ready to rev our engines and see who was the best of the best for this week, for a very special Back to the Future Time Warping Edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And the first track that we have up comes from the creator MBurger39 with his said track MB89 Reservoir Road Grand Prix. But he put GP for short, but we decided to give it the respect that it deserves because this track, besides being a track that is right dead center in the Bay Tree Canyon, that allows you to race in a teaspoonful of water sort of reservoir that he made for himself, and he turned into an actual track. And the fact that you get a chance to use every vehicle across the board is another nice touch. And the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there is to beware when you go inside that little miniature funnel that he has before you hit the turns during this said map. Now, the only reason we say that is because depending on how wide your car is when you go through it and you're trying to race against your opponent, let's just say that if you're still at a side-by-side stance going into that tunnel, there's a high possibility that your car will get cut off from the height of that makeshift tunnel that he made during the race. So make sure that if you do try to overtake your opponent, wait after you go through that tunnel to overtake him. Most likely near the turns. That would be your best bet. And the next track that we have up, or should I say Deathmatch, comes from the creator Ex Machina, nice name by the way, with their said deathmatch of Nosferatu's Castle. Really? I forgot the name of this map was Nosferatu's Castle, and the reason why in the world this track made it for this week, or deathmatch, is because not only there's dangers lurking around every turn in this said deathmatch, but the fact that you get a chance to fight in Nosferatu's Castle. And also, it is filled with other things besides stakes, folks, because it's filled with special carbines and other sorts of weapons that you can find along the way, and a couple of weapons that you can bring along with you during the fight. And the only tip of advice that we have for you fight fans out there who wants to fight in a legendary vampire-like castle is be careful around every corner you take, because this place is a little bit of a maze and you can get killed randomly from a person who can sneak up from behind you. So make sure you watch your 6, and not only that, but carry plenty of snacks and health items just in case you do get caught from behind from a random person trying to take you out. And be prepared for anything in Nosferatu's castle. That should be the headline for this thing too. Maybe he'll add it in later. But before he does that, folks, the next track that we have up, that comes from the creator, Bass_Drum, with his said track, A Vinewood Epic Stunt Race. And this track we picked for the week not only because it's a track that's featured right on the top of Vinewood Hills with plenty of wall rides, stunt jumps, and even spiral jumps, and a jump that looks strangely enough like one of those screensavers from Windows 95, is the fact that this track allows you to race in off-road, super, and SUV cars for this said race, which is impressive. And the only tip of advice we have for you fans out there is, if this is your first time doing this track, make sure you test it out with supercars. And the reason why we say that, folks, is because some of the jumps are a bit questionable if you can or cannot make it. So yeah, definitely pick supercars for this said track, and then move your way on to off-road and then eventually SUVs for a little bit of fun. And oh, be careful and stay centered on the wall rides, because if you don't, you will lose this race. Almost forgot Maestro, but I remembered near the end. And another crazy track that will feature wall rides, folks, comes from none other than Genopia with his said track, G Boat Party. And if you thought the skate party was crazy, this one takes it up just a little bit of a notch on the insanity levels, because not only he made a makeshift boat of his own, he was able to make it with different checkpoints that you have to keep an eye out for, and if you don't, you will lose this race. And oh, by the way, he also included the same lineup of off-road, super, and SUV cars to do this said track, with plenty of loop-de-loops and spirals for you to play on in this makeshift boat party. And the only tip of advice, which I think we already gave you, was to make sure you watch out for the red checkpoints during this map to make sure you don't get lost during this map while racing against your friends. So keep an eye out for them. Yeah. And the last but not least track that we have up for this week comes from, once again, Genopia with his said track, G Curly Clover. And this track, and the reason why I'm laughing is because this track includes 3 of the craziest loop-de-loops you will ever see that does make out a clover in the far distance. And I got a feeling this guy was able to get inspiration from this from, I guess, one of the rainbow roads that's come out in past Mario Kart games. And the only tip of advice that we have for you fans out there is to hold on for dear life, and almost the same way as that guy from Reno 911, gun it and run it, because the loop-de-loops in this said track have gaps in them, and there's a high possibility that you can crash into your opponent in midair during these said loops. So yeah, be faster than your opponent. That's the only tip of advice we have, and stay centered on those said loop-de-loops so you can make sure you can make it from one loop to the next. And Maestro's looking at me saying that's a cliche answer, saying to be faster than your opponent, but in this case, if you're not and you crash into your opponent, you will lose this race. Just saying. Just saying. And with that said, folks, wraps it up for another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And with that said, we might as well head back into this music, and when we return, we'll be back with more of that radioactive madness that you could shake a Geiger counter at right after this. So don't get lost in the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned.